Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. Hugh Freeze, the Auburn Tigers, land another commitment coming from this 2025 class in four-star offensive tackle Carde Smith from the state of Alabama. And when you dive into the film of Carde Smith, which we're going to do in just a second, the first thing that comes to mind is these are the type of bodies that you want to bet on over the next couple of years from a physical trait standpoint, length, athleticism. That's what you're looking for in offensive tackles at the SEC level. And Carde Smith really checks all of those boxes. Now, on the film, there are certainly things that you want to see get cleaned up. At 6'6", 300 pounds, you can tell that he's still growing into that frame, which is not all too rare for guys that are 15, 16 years old that have that much size to deal with. But once he starts figuring that out and kind of adds that functional athleticism standpoint, you're looking at an offensive tackle that I think has a very high ceiling at the next level. And something we've talked about for Auburn on the recruiting trail over the last couple of weeks is, yes, they have landed some premier offensive talent, Walker White, Cam Coleman, Perry Thompson. But what Hugh Freeze is doing along the line of scrimmage is very impressive as well. One of the top defensive line classes in 2025 that they are building. You look at the offensive line, guys like DeAndre Carter, Tavares Dice, Carde Smith, the last couple of classes really stacking some elite talent along the line of scrimmage as well. Hugh Freeze knows more than anybody that if you want to win at the highest level in the SEC, you got to have good line of scrimmage play, and you got to get it done on the recruiting class. It is hard to address those concerns in the transfer portal, and Hugh Freeze is getting it done on the recruiting trail along the line of scrimmage. Want to get into Carde Smith, talk a little bit about what he brings to the table for this Auburn offense. Before we do, and as always, just want to say thank you to you guys, a massive shout out to the Auburn Tiger fans. The amount of support y'all have shown the boys, whether we're talking the recruiting trail, the transfer portal, all the War Eagles in the comments section, that stuff means the world. Cannot thank you guys enough. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. And without further ado, let's get into Carde Smith. And I think where you want to start is Jake Thornton on the offensive line, in my mind, doing a phenomenal job, not only from the talent acquisition standpoint, but you talk about the development of some of these young offensive linemen, a guy like Connor Lew, who I think is kind of in line to have a all-conference kind of season for Auburn. When you start combining the player development and the talent acquisition, that's when you get elite offensive line units. And I think that's what you're seeing Auburn begin to do on the offensive line now. You get into Carde Smith. I think the first thing that stands out as we get into the film is the power that he has in his hands, the pure size that he has. It's physically imposing. Like, you want these kind of guys on your offensive line in the SEC. And yes, does he have things that he needs to work on 100%? But you want to bet on these kind of traits. You take a look at the film here. One, I kind of got at, not after him, but talking about you want to see him kind of grow into that frame and utilize that frame a little bit more effectively. Still a pretty solid athlete for someone that is 6'6", 300 pounds as a junior in high school. First rep you see getting up to the second level, using that athleticism, putting a helmet on a helmet. And then you see, just the physically imposing power that he has. Very, very impressive. Again, at the next level, getting to linebackers, putting guys in the ground. You see the upper body strength here with a guy like Carde Smith. You're going to see it on the replay. The ability to use that length and just manhandle second-level defenders. That's the type of power that you want in the hands. You see the athleticism in terms of pulling around to the play side formation, getting in the hole. And again, when he is engaged with defenders, it's all over. This is a guy, this is probably where he excels the most. Like, when you dive into the film, yes, you like some of the things that he does in terms of working up to the second level, operating in space. When you see him just asked, hey, we got to move some bodies, down block, create some running lanes, that's where he excels the most, at that right tackle spot, just putting guys in the ground. Really clean get off for someone that's 6'6". Again, when you're talking about guys with this kind of size, you normally see not great get offs, and they just kind of win with size. I think you see some winning with some explosiveness and some athleticism as well. Again, down block, this is where he excels, just moving guys off the line of scrimmage. Now, the one question that you have from watching the film is certainly not in the run blocking department. This is a guy that's going to move bodies at the SEC level. You don't see a ton of pass pro, and I think that is not necessarily a concern. He certainly has the length to do so. I think you just want to see that get developed over his first couple of years with Auburn. But again, you see some of that athleticism, combine that with the size and length. You feel pretty good about what he can be as a pass protector. You just don't see a ton of it on the film. And you get into Auburn's class in 2025. This is, in my mind, the brewing of a really, really good class, right? You look at the defensive line, guys like Malik Autry, Caleb Falk, Jordan Crawford. It is one of the top defensive line classes in the country right now. But what's important to me is what they're doing on the offensive line. This is, again, we talk about this. When you want to address other positions in the transfer portal, you can certainly do that, right? If you want to add a wide receiver, you want to add a running back, some of that offensive skill, you can do that in the portal. What's really hard to address in the transfer portal, I think they did a really good job with a guy like Percy Lewis, but for a lot of Power 5 programs, it's hard to find premier offensive linemen in the transfer portal, which makes it really important to make sure you're getting it done on the recruiting trail. Guys like Tavares Dice and a guy like Ty, you take a look at what they have in this 2025 class. I mean, 4 offensive linemen already committed with a guy like Carde Smith adding in this class. You like to see Auburn kind of getting early and active on the offensive line because, again, that's a position that Hugh Freeze is going to use the portal. It's hard to find good offensive linemen that are available in the transfer portal. You got to get it done on the high school recruiting trail. That's exactly what this Auburn Tigers program has been doing. Carde Smith, big-time commitment for the Auburn Tigers. We'll wrap it up with that. Again, appreciate all the support you guys have shown the fellas. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel, and we'll talk to y'all later.